Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand spanking new episode of MovieKombat. This is episode 2 of season 8 of MovieKombat, and this season we are discussing the Disney princesses this season, since it is the first time that this is the first season done in Florida, and the PT Nation wanted to do a Disney thing, and so that kind of worked out. And there we go. Apple, how's it going? Hope things are going good. We are recording MovieKombat right now, so hopefully you saw Cinderella. Last week we talked about Snow White. I gave it a 7 out of 10. PT Nation gave it an 8.3 out of 10. So that's how that works. And then at the end of this season, we will eventually do all the averages, and we will tell you who has won MovieKombat at the end of everything. And from now, we still have quite a few movies to go through. This is only the second episode, so there are plenty. I think there are 13 total. So we haven't even crossed into the more recent 10 of them. Remember, these are the official Disney princesses. They are actually what Disney says. These are the Disney princesses of all of Disney. These 13. So Anna and Elsa were not, because, well, first off, Elsa is a queen, and she's a snow queen, and then Elsa technically is a princess, so I don't really know how, but eventually she does become a queen, because in Frozen 2 she is now a queen. It's a whole thing, so whatever. But I think that's what happened in Frozen 2. I've only seen Frozen 2, I've seen it twice, but I haven't seen it in a long time. But anyway, we're going to go into Cinderella, the 1950 Cinderella, which is always crazy to really think about just how old these movies are, because Snow White was 1930s something, actually, I believe. Let's see here. Snow White, 1937. Okay, so this is now, we have jumped to 1950 as the next princess. So we've gone 37, 50. But there was something that kind of happened between 1937 and 1950, so it might be because of that. There was quite a few things happening at the time, so that's why we didn't really get that many movies, but we did get some stuff. So let's talk about Walt Disney's Cinderella. Okay, so the thing about this is I actually went into this. I've seen Cinderella several times, off and on. It's like, I always think Cinderella isn't really that great of a movie. And then again, as I'm an adult now, as I am trying to watch these movies more, critiquing and things like that, Cinderella is a very good movie. It's done as a children's movie. It's beat for beat a really good movie. You have a character that is our main character, Snow White. If we go back to the first one, Snow White is not really character developed. Everything is very subtle. We got to get this information out there, and I actually praised Snow White for doing this, because they wanted to get to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That's what the movie's about. That's what we want, and that's what 70% of that movie is about, is Snow White being with the Seven Dwarfs for an entire night. Cinderella is, we now have to have this character develop into what we need to care about her. We need to look at her and go, I care about Cinderella, and I want her to succeed. So how do we do that? And then we also got to look at the evil stepmother. How evil really is she? How really? We always say, oh, the evil stepmother and this, that. Is she really that bad? And then you start to realize, oh shit, yeah, she's really that bad. She is really a not nice lady. And so we get introduced to Cinderella, at the very, very beginning, and we get a brief story, little thing of just a very good. This is why this is. That's it. We're going in, and the movie opens with the storybook opening. Snow White also did that. Cinderella did that. Eventually, the movies will stop doing that, but for now, we have the storybook opening up and telling us the story. And over the course of this season, I'm keeping track of 4 things. When we see the princess for the first time, how many songs, the first song, and when we see the villain for the first time. We see Cinderella at 2 minutes and 4 seconds. There's a little bit of an opening, and then the book opens up, and then we get to see young Cinderella with, then it pans up to reveal the evil stepmother and the 2 evil step sisters, and that is at 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So there's about a 4-second separation between our princess and our villain. Now here's the other thing. This unlike Snow White had almost a minute separation between the evil queen and Snow White, where Snow White didn't show up until 3 minutes and 31 seconds, and evil queen shows up at 2 minutes and 23 seconds. So we had the evil queen being revealed first, then we had our princess. Cinderella, we have now our princess being revealed before our villain is revealed. So I don't know how many times it's going to happen. I think Snow White is the outlier, but we'll see. Because the other thing is, when we get to more recent ones like Aladdin, Princess Jasmine, technically I don't think she shows up until kind of a few bit in there. So because it's when the princess shows up, not when Aladdin shows up, not when the main character shows up. Like, and you know, Jasmine is technically a main character. She's just kind of like, she's the sub main character. Aladdin, it's his movie. That's what it is. It's Arabian Nights. It's his movie. So that's kind of where that whole situation, when we get to kind of future ones, I think really the only one that deals with that is Aladdin, because we have, as for everything else, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Pocahontas, Mulan, Princess of the Frog, Tangled, Brave, Moana, and Raya and the Last Dragon. All of those, the main characters are the women of those movies. Like, that's kind of where those go. So we'll see. We'll see where Aladdin, how far in. We'll see if that movie actually delays it even the longest. I'm curious to know. But anyway, going into Cinderella, I think that revealing the characters at the very beginning, they tell you, yes, the dad died, and that's why this whole situation is happening. Otherwise, obviously, this wouldn't be normally happening. A father would not allow an evil stepmother to be treating his own daughter like this, and allowing the 2 evil step sisters to be treating her like this as well. They gave everybody a name except for the evil stepmother. I don't believe she has a name. She's just referred to as the evil stepmother. Actually, now that I see that, let's see here. Yeah, I don't think the evil stepmother has an actual name. Oh, Lady Tremaine. Is that her name? Let's see here. Yes, she does have a name. Okay. Yeah, and the other thing, Alana, how's it going? We're just getting started talking about Cinderella. The other thing about this movie is you can definitely tell, and you'll see in the IMDb credits, there's a lot of live action references. Disney, when he did a lot of his movies back in the day, were to have live action inspiration, or they would shoot a whole scene and then draw over it and then put it in as the movie. So I'm doing not too bad. We're for a Thursday before 4th of July. But yeah, I think where you can see that with a lot of how this animation is done. It's very Black Cauldron-ish, where like they drew, you could definitely tell there was a lot of mannerisms and things that I don't think you would naturally draw. You would never think to draw someone like that. But because it was a moving actor, they used that as the reference. So it does do a good job of like, and actually that's why I really I liked this movie watching it again, is noticing the animation is amazing. Like this really did kind of push a we're going to make a really centric focused all encompassing animated movie. We're going to throw our songs in there, but also that's the other thing. There aren't that many songs in the movie. I only counted 4. They repeat them, but there's only really 4 songs in the movie, not including the one that intros. I count how many times in like one of the characters sings, and I only counted 4. They, again, like I said, repeat some of the songs, or they'll play it in the background and they'll do something like that. But there is not a lot of music in this compared to 9 songs in Snow White. It definitely also kind of relates to the era of when those movies are coming out. Snow White came out in the late 30s. You still have Broadway is taking the world by storm. Vaudeville's still a thing. Like, you still have all of these things going around. Then the 50s happen, and now people are wanting to go back into theaters and go and see movies and things like that. This kind of kept it. And also, the movie's only an hour and like 13 minutes. So take the credits off. Let's say you take the credits off at the beginning and at the end. The movie's an hour, but it's still a full-length feature film. So it's still considered a full-length feature. So, because I think you only got to be an hour to be a full-length feature film. But they really sum up a story, and there's not a lot that happens, but if you really think about the time that everything is happening, it's over a couple days. Like the first one, you have the first day that you get introduced to Snow White. Well, actually, you can even go back farther because there's the flashback that tells you about like how the father died and blah blah blah, or he didn't, not how, but that he did. Then you go into the next one where it's so we'll count that as one day. The second day that we have is when we get introduced to Cinderella. I may have said Snow White earlier, but introduced to Cinderella, and she has a lot more character to her. She's more fleshed out. She actually will say a lot more lines than just going into singing, because again, we're now going into an era of cinema that doesn't need to be a musical. It is a musical. There is songs that are sang by the characters, but now we can add more to why am I watching Cinderella? Why do I even care about this person? And you see that she's very nice, very kind. The animals love her. It's very Disney, and what will soon be very Disney. And that's kind of the other thing, is this movie is so Walt Disney. It's through every portion of its DNA. They have the songs. The animation is amazing. They add little subtle notes of like when she sings the Nightingale song. Fresh, how's it going? When she sings the Nightingale song, they add those bubbles, which adds the like reverb, because we're seeing the multiple reflections of her. So now it's supposed to be like this is multiple Cinderellas singing at the same time. There's very smart ways of how they incorporated their music to the animation. The story is not very long. The premise of the story is obviously, it's not fantastic, but I was kind of thinking about it, and I'm like, there's a reason why there's a trope. This is the trope. This is why it's like cookie cutter what it is. The Cinderella is the template. That's why there are all these things that it does in the movie, because when you look back at it, it's because they did it. They were the ones that were kind of starting that template of how this type of story was going to be told. But as a kids movie, I think it's wonderful. I think if you wanted to watch something that was a character you can like, you had the villain, but it's not too scary, and there's just a whole bunch of things. Oh, wait, watch streak. Wow. On a 3-stream streak. Congratulations. To me, it just kind of seems like this movie is from going from Snow White to going to Cinderella, this is where they're kind of like the Disney company. Okay, you've seen our movie one. You've seen our first movie. Here's our second movie. And this is really, to me, how Disney was such a big deal for almost 100 years. I would say almost, even though they are 100, they have fallen flat very hard in the last 15 years. But let's say 90 years. Like, they, to me, this is why Disney was so special, because they kept innovating. They did their thing, they learned something, they went on, and then they did something else. We already did our story. How do we do something better than Snow White? Well, let's come up with a character, but we're going to actually tell more of her story so that you really do like Cinderella. That's what they did. And there's a reason why there are about 500 different spin-offs of this. There's a Cinderella 3 that Disney actually did make when Disney was doing their whole VHS tapes. There's a Cinderella 2, a Cinderella 3, and then, those two were directed to VHS. So, and that's the thing. That was done. This movie is 1950. I don't think Cinderella 2 came out until the 90s. Let's see Cinderella 2. Let's see. 2. It didn't come out until 2002. 2002. Almost 50 plus years, 52 years later, that's when the sequel came out of an animated movie. So that just goes to show this movie, and Disney was smart. This was also when Disney was doing the Disney Vault. So they were like, they would release the movie, and then for a window, you could buy the movie on whatever, and then they would take it, and then they would put it away. And then you couldn't buy it anywhere. You can't go to the store and buy it. You can't buy it digitally because that didn't exist. Can't buy it on VHS. So they would then have these anniversaries that would happen, and there would be like the Diamond Edition, which is actually the trailer that just played here on IMDb. That was when it was released on, I think, like Blu-ray. And that was the only thing that you could get. You could only buy it when they released it out of the vault. You could buy it from a certain period of time, from X to Y, and then as soon as that was over, they would take the movie off the shelves of Target and Walmart and all them places, and they'd throw it into a vault, and then they wouldn't sell it, and that was it. That you could not watch it anywhere. You couldn't rent it. You couldn't get it. Well, I think you may have been able to rent it, but you couldn't buy it for sure. And so that was the only way. The only way you could watch it is if it was on TV, or if you went and bought it, or if you went and rented it from like Blockbuster or something. So, yeah, it was an interesting time that movies were doing it. But then that made Cinderella and Snow White and the future movies of Sleeping Beauty that we'll watch, that made those movies special, because when you watched them, it was a very special moment. So anyway, Loner, thank you for the hydrate. But yeah, so that is why I would think that, I know I kind of rambled, but that's part of the show, right? When you only have one person, it's just rambling anyway. There it is. I was like, oh, did the sound effects not work anymore? So, with that said, let's take a look at some of the IMDb stuff. We're going to head over to the IMDb corner now. Let's take a look at some taglines. Now, with these movies being old, especially 1950, there are several taglines, so let's take a look at what the taglines are. There are re-releases, so we'll kind of figure that out when that happens. First one is the 1957 reissue, is The Greatest Love Story Ever Told. Next one is Greatest Since Snow White. Well, it's the only one. So there you go. There's only two. I guess being the greatest since Snow White, that's pretty on the nose. Full of fantasy, fun, and delight, and all the world to enjoy. Okay. Here to set a spark in your heart and a sparkle in your eye, the world's best love story told with Walt Disney's wizardry. Wow. That's a little long to put on a movie poster, so I don't know if that would be... I don't know what tagline and what place that was being used at, but I guess that works. This is a 1973 re-release. Is Bippity Boppity Boo. It's fun. It's magic. We couldn't add a rhyme there. Like, boo rhymes with so many things. I don't know why we couldn't throw in something that... Anyway. Once Upon a Time makes a timeless transformation. Oh, all right. I could see that being... Because remember, taglines are supposed to be on the movie poster. You're supposed to look at it, and you're like, I know what that movie's about. So, that kind of does... Like, after you watch it, it's a little more on the descriptive parts. A dream come true. Okay. A love story with music. That's not wrong. That's not a wrong thing to say. For all the world to love. Okay. Midnight never strikes when you're in love. Well, it did. So, yeah, I don't know what that was for. So, anyway... They're not bad. They're better than Snow White. Snow White's had a lot of re-releases and a lot of... I didn't know when they were releasing them, so they didn't really make a lot of sense. All right, let's head over to some trivia about Cinderella, and we'll see how this works. Okay. Who is that? Okay, so the actress that played Cinderella... suffered from Alzheimer's disease in the later years of her life. During this time, she did not even remember that she had played Cinderella, but nurses claimed that she was very much comfortable to sing "A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes." That's another thing. Even though I only counted like 4 songs that are sang by characters in this movie, they are very Disney songs, and Disney uses them all the time. "A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes" is sang and played throughout the theme parks in several different ways. Whether it be a parade, whether it be a like stage show, whether it be just in the background when you're walking around the theme park, that song is played all the time. And it is a very Disney song. As Snow White did have a few of them in there, like the "I'm Wishing," that one is pretty known, but some people don't know it, so it's like... But "A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes" is very, very well known, even if you're... Like, as a Disney song. Also, the Cinderelly, like, that song also... I don't know, in my household, it was very, very well known, just how my mom liked the way that the mice sang that song. My grandma also liked that, too. So, there's that, too. At around 47 minutes, the transformation of Cinderella's torn dress to that of the white ball gown was considered to be Walt Disney's favorite piece of animation. All right, there you go. Oh yeah, the cat's name was Lucifer. I forgot about that. Lucifer was modeled after animator Ward Kimball's cat, a plump 6-toed calico named Fetsy. To prepare for Cinderella, Campbell studied dozens of cats, but had trouble coming up with an effective design for the villainous feline. One day, Walt Disney visited the animator's home to talk shop, so to just talk with him, and Fitzy brushed up against Walt Disney's leg throughout the conversation. Walt, who was not fond of cats, finally declared, "For gosh sakes, Kimball, there's your Lucifer right there." So there you go. Walt Disney was like, "Get this cat off me. This is the cat. I don't know what you've been looking at all these cats for. You're wasting your time. You got your cat right here." So that's a very Walt Disney thing. Yeah, there's been several quotes that we've been hearing, like I think from the Snow White thing. I think from last episode we talked about how he had said William Shakespeare had said dopey, so the time period dopey was a okay thing to say, but nobody could challenge Walt Disney on it because they're not going to look it up. They don't have no way of looking this up other than going to the library. And even then, they have to hope that maybe the library has all of William Shakespeare's things. So they were like, all right, if William Shakespeare did it, come to find out, now that the internet exists, he never said dopey in any of his things. So Walt Disney flat out lied just so that he could get the name in there. Because he was like, I'm not going to take the time to keep coming up with names for this guy. Just call him dopey and move on. Like, there you go. There's another situation where it's like, you got your cat right here. Just name it. This is Lucifer. Don't quit looking at all these videos of these cats. It's Lucifer. So, okay. Let's see. So, the actress that played Cinderella beat exactly 309 girls for the part of Cinderella. After some demo recordings of her singing a few of the film's songs were presented to Walt Disney. After that, all that happened. However, she had no idea she was auditioning for the part until Disney contacted her. She initially made the recordings for a few friends who sent them to Disney without telling her. Wow! So she didn't even audition. She just, in theory, she just recorded her singing. Her friends were like, we're going to send this to Disney. They sent it to Walt Disney, and Disney contacted her, and she was like, oh, okay. That's insane, but a very cool story. Last one we'll read here. There's a lot of facts here, but we'll just read one more. To save money when animating the pumpkin coach, the animators drew the coach to seemingly float on air so that they would not have to animate the turning wheels for the of the wheel, of the thing. That's I don't know what it actually is, and I don't want to butcher what it actually is named. But that's cool. That's very cool. All right. On to the next thing. We can look at a goof here. Around the 7-minute mark, when Cinderella is getting dressed in the morning, she pulls her hair ribbons around all of her hair. In the next shot, it's tied only around half. Interesting. It was a good movie? I think so, too. Around 10 minutes, when Cinderella wakes Lucifer up at the beginning of the movie, she opens the room door from the right to left. The shadow of the door on the floor moves from left to right. Oh, so she opens it this way, but the shadow looks like that way. So, yeah. All right. Yeah, animation goofs is kind of like, I don't know. It's a little harder to critique that because you don't know what. It could have been flipped, and then they flipped it over. So, was it a goof, or was it just a way that they were just like, hey, we don't have to do with this? Okay. Oh, yeah, there's connections. So, Disney, in order to save money on certain things, because obviously redrawing a lot of stuff or coming up with movements is really, really hard. So, they would actually reuse animations, and then they would just overlap them with other characters. So before the day and age of comparing and contrasting movies in such vivid detail, they would just reuse the scene, but they would draw over them the characters for the new movie. So, for example, Robin Hood, the Disney Robin Hood, they actually used some animations and sounds for bells at the end. Okay, so they used some of the stuff from Cinderella to actually make Robin Hood. And apparently also the Magic World of Disney, which is Disney's greatest villains. Okay. So there's a few things that I got edited into. But the Robin Hood thing is a little more interesting because that one's like pretty legit. Okay. Release date was March 4th, 1950 is when this movie officially came out, with a budget estimated at $2.9 billion. Billion. Disney spent $2.9 billion with a B in 1950 to make this movie, which is crazy. But see, this is what throws it off. They put the opening weekend, so this must be when they started keeping track of opening weekend. So whatever, it does have an opening weekend budget, but that was December 20th, 1981. and that's $1.3 million, or sorry, billion dollars. So take that with whatever it is. Grossed in USA and Canada. Again, it could be based on a few things here, but it has made $93.1 billion in the US and Canada. Gross worldwide, $96.4 billion is how much Cinderella has made. So there is that. So yeah, that is going to be the IMDb corner for that. We will close this one up. So now it comes down to, what do we give it a rating of? Remember, you at home can give it a rating. If you're watching live on twitch.tv/primal_target, you guys can be a part of the review process every single episode by just being here and by telling us what you would rate it based on that over there scale. So 10 is groundbreaking, 9s are must-haves, 8s are marvelous, 7s are worthy, 6s are borrows, 5s are meh, 4s are mediocre, 3s are terrible, 2s are horrific, 1s are trash, and 0s are unplayable. So, I think we might have actually gone to an ad, so we might not be seeing anybody for any time soon. But if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to vamp for a little bit so the people can come back. But if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you also click the little notification button when we go, like, posting stuff. There's more stuff that I have to edit. As you can see, I posted just recently not too long ago, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So there is that and whatever. So there is content over there that isn't just MovieKombat. But for the most part, this stuff is what I do. So that's what I try to get done. You don't have an ad? Oh, okay, cool. So, Alana, if you want to rate it, go ahead. But, oh, there it is. There's the ad break. It just went to an ad break. All right, well. Yeah. So, Fresh gives it an 8.6. I will explain my whole thing. The story really isn't, it's not great. In its broader sense of the term. Princess gets mistreated by her evil stepmom, and thus she finds out about a big ball that could change her life, and she tries to do that, but the evil stepmother won't do that, won't allow her. She decides, hey, I'm actually gonna, with the help of her friends and a fairy godmother, she gets a dress, she gets the whole carriage, she gets the horses, she gets the transportation, she goes, she dances with the prince. She doesn't know it's the prince. The prince falls in love with her based on just the interactions and her dancing with him, which is kind of interesting because they don't even really have a conversation. So it's not great, right? Like they fall in love based off of dancing with each other. That's how that works. And at the end, she doesn't even really know that that's him until whatever, but she does sing a song about her falling in love. That is them singing the duet thing is them talking to each other, falling in love with each other. So this is love, like da 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 da, like that, all that stuff. That is them having the conversation back and forth. So, with that said, it's not groundbreaking in its broader sense. It is very groundbreaking because people have used this movie to make other movies. They've made Cinderella movies, not Disney movies. Disney doesn't own Cinderella. It's a story that's been told for centuries. So the thing is, it's not groundbreaking. They didn't come up with it. Them making it does land it in, a little bit under a 10, but it is good. Is it a must-have? I think for some. I think some people would love this. I think if you don't like musicals, I think this is enough of a musical to really not make you want to watch it, because you'd be like, oh, there's just singing throughout. There is singing throughout. It is a musical at the end of its day, because that's how Disney films were back in the day. They always had music, and they didn't not have music until very, very recently. And then even then, Pixar movies were the only reason why Disney movies weren't having music. So there's that. So I don't know if it's a must-have. Where is it marvelous? I think it is. I think it's geniusly told. It is a movie that it tells you a story in 1 hour. We binge watch seasons of movies for 7 to 8 hours. 1 hour, this movie begins and it ends. That's it. You don't have to sit there forever. You know why that's a good thing? Because if you have a kid sitting next to you that's 6 years old, they're not going to sit through a 2.5 hour long movie talking about like random crap that they don't care about. They don't care about any of this stuff. They just want to see the character succeed in their story. This movie does that. It is as Disney of a movie as it possibly can be. And for that, I had to give it a very, I would say, is pretty close. The reason, now I did have it a little higher. But I docked it a little bit just because the story isn't, it's not fantastic. I'm not going to put it up too high, but I think it's better than a solid 8. And so with that, I'm going to say it is an 8.1, only because it's better than a solid 8. I did have it a little bit higher at an 8.3, but after kind of thinking about it, I was like, there is some things that it's not fantastic out, but I do like Cinderella a lot more watching this as an adult. I think that Cinderella's character was very well done. I think the music is really good. Obviously, again, like I said, Disney uses the 4 songs in this movie all the time, except maybe Cinderelly, like that whole thing. But other than that, So This Is Love, like that is a very, like, some people know that song not even being associated to Cinderella. So there's that. But, you know, the fairy godmother, the evil stepmom, all that is done very, very well in this movie. So for that, I give it an 8.1. Fresh gave it an 8.6. So Alana, are you going to review this? I think everyone's back from the ad. 8.6 is currently the PT Nation score, unless Alana gives a score, and then we will base it off the average. So I'm going to give her a little bit of time to think about it. But that is essentially the end of the episode. So while we wait, if Alana says I'm good, then we're good. We'll move on. But here is what is going to be happening. If you are not already, make sure you head over to twitch.tv/Primal_Target and make sure you are subscribed, or not really subscribed because that means a different thing. Follow us. Just heart. Click the little heart button. And watch us live so you can participate in the live showings and reviews of what we will be doing here on MovieKombat. And then also make sure you're subscribed to us over here on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube in the future. And then you won't miss when we do another one, unless I completely mess up downloading these Twitch VODs, which is exactly why there is no Pirates of the Caribbean season on YouTube. So that was exclusively to Twitch, and we have the reviews. I saved them. I just didn't download the last 2 episodes, and I think I didn't download the last 3 episodes because I was in the process of moving, and I completely forgot. So that is how that worked out. Fear I wasn't very caught up with it, so because I missed last stream, but I'm gonna start watching them from now on. Okay, cool. All right, that's cool. All right, so then the PT Nation score is gonna be a 8.6. Okay, so here's how the next one is. If you're still sticking around, your homework for next time is Sleeping Beauty. That is going to be what I would consider. I love Maleficent in the sense that I just think that is such a badass villain. It is a witch that turns into a dragon, and it's so cool of how that is. But is the story, because I haven't seen Sleeping Beauty in a very, very long time, is the story enough to beat out Cinderella and Snow White? So as we head into our third movie, we already have a 7 and an 8.1 from me. And in the PT Nation score, 8.3 and an 8.6. So they're either going to go up or they're going to go down. So we will see how many we got. And after Sleeping Beauty, we will head into our last 10. So there are 13 that are total. So we'll head into those once we get into them. But next week, next week for Twitch, next episode for you on YouTube, Sleeping Beauty. So we'll see you guys in the next episode. Good night, everybody.